Your week 10 speed work begins with your week 10 warm-up prep. Then you'll move on to your plyo progression, and what you'll be using today is traveling jumps. And so with traveling jumps, what we're doing now is we're making things more reactive, so it's not just training acceleration or deceleration independently. Now we're putting them together, we're making things more dynamic because of where we are in the off season. So a linear and lateral traveling jump, you're going to try to jump forward, broad jump forward as far as you can, horizontal power. Say it's 9 feet, then you're immediately going to pop back about a third of that distance, 2 to 3 feet, and repeat the process going forward. So you're doing about a set of 8 to 10 of these moving forward, but you want to be as quick as you can, but about as powerful as you can. There's an inverse relationship there, because with all these traveling jumps and eventually hops and leaps, the quicker you are off the ground, the less distance you're going to get. The more distance you get, probably the slower you are off the ground. So you want to find a happy medium. So a traveling jump would look like this: linear, and then lateral. You can just work here. Remember, horizontal power here. You can perform that going both sides lateral, opposite to your left and to your right. For your ladder progression, we'll continue on with the exit work. It's called today a exit, where we're going to work. Now this is a 5-yard ladder. Probably should be working with a 10-yard ladder, but just for the demonstration purpose here, this is a 5-yard ladder. So as it's labeled, you're going to use 2 linear patterns, a crossover and a cross under. In this week 10 program, you're going to exit laterally with a shuffle. So I'm going to use a linear quickness pattern, hard lateral shuffle, out, back in, back to my linear pattern, shuffle out, shuffle back in, linear pattern, and I would sprint exit. Everything I'm doing right here is really condensed just because of the space I have right now, but it would look like this. If I was doing a crossover, and say my first round I'd be doing lateral shuffles to the right, second round lateral shuffles to the left, maybe the third round I would combine those, lateral right with a lateral left. But here would be just a lateral right shuffle, so it'd be here, here, shuffle out 5, touch, back in, shuffle out, touch, back in, and then sprint out. So that's a good combination of linear quickness, lateral speed, linear speed. So you're changing, the mode of athleticism that you're training during the course of that set. You'd also do that with a cross under. Remember, the cross under is this pattern. So you notice I'm not adding new patterns, I'm just giving you new things to do with those patterns. And then for your speed training, you'll be performing speed cuts. So here's where we start working on angular speed. And on your sheet it says 0 degrees, 15 degrees, 30 degrees. So in other words, I'm showing you this in about a 20-yard stretch. Excuse me, about a 15-yard stretch. You usually need to be at about 40 yards here. So for 0 degrees, it's just a straight line sprint. So you just run a straight line 40. And then what you'll do is you'll open up the cones like every other one about 2 steps out. So I'd walk this one out. 1, 2. And just for a very condensed version of it. I'd be here, just rolling over, and I would continue to make that 15-degree cut. And so all I'm doing there is a subtle shift in my center of gravity. I'm not having to plant and cut. I'm just rolling the hips over there for time. And you'll lose some time, obviously, off your straight line 40 to a 15-degree, which again, every other cone is going to be stepped out, just 2 steps out to create the 15 degrees. Then what you do is you take every other cone and you step it out 2 more steps to about 4 steps out to create 30 degrees. So the bigger the angle, the more you have to decelerate and restart. So you'll go from 15 degrees, just kind of rolling the hips over, trusting your shift and your center of gravity, to 30 degrees, then maybe a little bit more plant and cut, and eventually you would get to, if you want to take it to 45 degrees, it would be even a bigger cut, because again, the bigger the angle, the more you've got to decelerate and re-accelerate out. So the concept is just learn how to manage your hips and your body. The bigger the angle, the more the foot's got to get outside the hips and flex to use more strength to stop and to restart. All right, week 11, hit your week 11 warm-up prep. Your plyo progression is going to be the linear and lateral traveling leaps. So same concept as the jumps, just now you're working single leg movements. In this case, you know, a linear traveling leap working left to right would look like this. And of course, I would also perform that right to left, making sure that my trunk's not flexing and my hip is what's flexing, and I'm being quick, but I'm being powerful. Lateral would look, of course, like this. And then going this way, I'm here, pop back here, pop back, and repeat. For the ladder in week 11, you've got the difference being, we'll take what you did in week 10. I changed your pattern to an icky shuffle or a buzzsaw, but I also changed the way you're exiting laterally. So whereas in the last week 10, it was a lateral shuffle out, this time it's going to be a sprint out. So let's just say I was doing the icky shuffle for quickness. I'd be here, here, and then here's my lateral acceleration. Touch back in. Lateral acceleration, again, working sets where you're exiting to your right, sets where you're working to your left, and sets combining those, maybe a right, then a left. But again, the idea is, there's my lateral speed getting out of the ladder, and of course I'd always finish with that linear sprint at the end. So there's 3 exits involved there. For your speed training, week 11 continues on this angular speed, working on curve cuts, which obviously apply to running the bases, shifting your center of gravity. You notice you've got circle cuts and figure 8 cuts. For a circle cut, you want to set up a circle that's 10 yards wide, 10 yards obviously all the way around. And for that, work these both clockwise and counterclockwise. The counterclockwise is going to be much more comfortable because you're used to left-hand turns. But the idea here is that we're teaching how to really work to simply shift your center of gravity and not have to slow down when you're sprinting arc. Just simply shift, maintain your speed. So to work this, I start here, and here's my shift as I take the curve. And I might do a first round, just doing 1 lap, clockwise, counterclockwise, and I can graduate to doing 2 laps around, clocking those. You probably like to create a gate that you run through at the end, so you don't have them running really wide. You want to have them run through a little bit of a gate, so you keep them honest to that curve. The figure 8 cut, generally speaking, you want to set up, it's about 20 yards long. I can't really show it here because I'm restricted by the room I have somewhat, but 20 yards long, and I can kind of demo it, what it would look like. You're training a speed cut, curve cut action. I start, I'm here, and I'm weaving in, back around, and I'm back through. And I'm simply just working a figure 8. Again, the best setup would be a 20-yard setup, where you've got the top and bottom of the 8, 20 yards apart. Obviously the junction in the middle, the midway point at 10 yards. And then the width of it, the corners or sides of the 8, you can play with that. Mix it up. Maybe they're the widths are 10 yards apart, maybe they're 7, maybe they're 12 yards apart. Obviously, the more width you have, the bigger the angle they got to cut on. That might be something you adjust from set to set to create more of a challenging dynamic, or just have them adjust how they're working through that figure 8 in their speed work. And you'd also do that, 1 lap around, 2 laps around, clocking all that to see how they're improving through that. Okay, that's good.